Now, then I cause hypertension. Then hypertension. There are two types of risk factors. What's non-modifiable risk factors and modifiable risk factors. Non-modifiable risk factors, interested. I don't know. There's nothing you can do about it. You were born with it. You can't control those risk factors, or you cannot control that situation. And you know, maybe to say age. And whether you like it or not, you grow old eventually, or you'll be growing old. It's not within your control. The older you get, the higher your risk of getting hypertension. Another one is family history. If you are papa and now mommy, and now if you are your grandmother or grandfather, if any of them have had hypertension before, the chances of you getting it is high. But you cannot control who your father or who your mother will become. See, that's why it's a non-modifiable risk factor. And another one is race. Unfortunately, before blacks, hypertension is much more common in us than whites. So you being black, I believe everybody here is black. You are automatically at risk of getting hypertension just because of your race. But I think the more important one is the one that you can control. And that's one of the important reasons why we are having this conversation. The ones are always be and only modifiable risk factors. One of them is high salt in chini. Say in chini you're tied to a which a lot of times it has a lot of salt to give it that taste. It puts you at risk of hypertension because in Chino basically it draws more water into your arteries and then it increases the blood, the pressure in your arteries, and that increases the risk of you getting hypertension. Obesity, so also it also increases your risk of getting hypertension. We remove to say because of car and the kinds of jobs we are doing, we are not physically active. We are sitting down a lot, we are not walking, we are not exercising. So physical inactivity is also a risk factor for hypertension. Alcohol is another risk factor for hypertension. Smoking, stress, the kind of jobs we are doing, we are not getting enough sleep. To go say sometimes phone and you didn't get enough sleep, then you check your blood pressure, it will be high. So stress is also another risk factor for hypertension. And then our diet. Eating foods with a lot of oil in it increases our cholesterol, which also increases the risk of getting hypertension. So the kinds of foods we are eating can put us at risk for hypertension. So you realize that there are so many things it can reduce our risk of getting it or even help control it when we've gotten the hypertension. Now, what are some of the complications of hypertension? Emergency, and a lot of diseases are or emergency of over 50% are highly preventable, and most of them are related to hypertension and diabetes, unfortunately. Heart attack, we'll see heart attack. That's because they have hypertension and it wasn't controlled, or diabetes, it wasn't controlled. Heart failure is another complication of hypertension. Stroke, they say stroke it's become so common. Back then, and stroke, then the person is above 60 years. But we have a lot of people now in their 30s, 35, 40s, stroke, and it's just because or hypertension and it wasn't controlled. Having the hypertension does not mean stroke, but BP now blood pressure, if it's not well controlled, that is when you can easily get a stroke. Kidney failure, to say dialysis, dialysis, so kidney disease is not outdoors. And it's basically the two main things is hypertension and diabetes. Because if your blood pressure is high constantly, there's a certain pressure our kidneys it will tolerate it. But if blood pressure is moving higher than that, it's damaging your kidneys, and that's when you end up on dialysis. And I don't think any of us wants to be on dialysis. If any of us have any relative on dialysis, it's very sad. The cost involved, how you feel, it's just not the best. Hypertension, we need IFRA. So BP, it can cause you vision loss or reduced vision, same for diabetes. And a sexual dysfunction, OBP, especially in men, it can cause you not to perform well in bed, can cause erectile dysfunction. And also, while doing BIM, if your blood pressure is very high, the speed at which you can think and things can also reduce. So here, there are so many, and then most of them is what is coming into the hospital these days. And it's sad to say they are highly preventable. You can easily prevent it, but either say it's a number of things. A lot of us know we know how many pounds say BP, hypertension, but for whatever reason. Some of us do have certain misconceptions or wrong ideas about how to manage the hypertension or when we take a medication. So hopefully, I hope say at the end of this discussion or presentation, ideas and answer concerns you have about it can be brought out and we can discuss it. So how do we prevent hypertension? Like I said, we have some modifiable risk factors. Now, going to me and should I end you can live a very healthy life. You are eating well, you are exercising, you are doing all the right things. But just because say the chances of you getting it is very high, and you may still get it, but at least it will slow the rate at which BP. And even when you get it, you know say it will still be under control so long as you are following the guidelines or the advice of your doctors. So what can we do? First, reduce salt in our food. In China, that's something we can do to reduce the salts in the food. And our fruits and vegetables. Eat more fruits and vegetables. A lot of times we see here there's not much fruits and vegetables in our foods, and we are eating a lot of junk food these days. Be more physically active. At least I'm a jogging. You walk sometimes, maybe you drive. If you can, if it's a short distance, you walk. Don't always be sitting down. A lot of us, we are always behind the PC, and I say we don't get the opportunity to walk. So at least every 2 hours you walk around a bit. You don't sit down for too long. Just be physically active, and that helps to reduce the risk of you getting hypertension. Or if you already have it, so it will be hypertension in the crowd. It helps control it, and then to limit alcohol and stop smoking is also another thing we can do to prevent hypertension. Then the last one is managing stress. Some of us, we are going through so many things, either work, stressing, and if you stressing, it will be increasing your blood pressure. And in the long run, it can eventually give us hypertension or maybe our hypertension. But because of stress and then will go through. Both said, it draws to but still and perform. So the other ways, you have to find ways to reduce your stress levels. In Proverbs chapter 17, verse 22, it says, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. We are always angry. di na ma BP akosho and one or pay are amount. Just try and be more lively. Get yourself in environments that keep you cheerful. You are getting involved in fellowship groups and whatnot so that you are not isolated. And my own dream think be free. Because now, whatever you are thinking about, try and real. So the other thing in group, aside all these things, I can manage your hypertension. So I make catch on. There are stages of hypertension, but I give the basic values. There are some things that if we realize BP or air posture, those are some of the things that which I can prevent you from getting to those high values, or at least keep it in a normal range as long as possible. But sometimes we do all these things and so still BP and cholesterol and will still get a hypertension. That is when the medicines will come inside. And that's why it's important say you screen or check your blood pressure often so that these lifestyle measures can be put in, or even you don't have to wait, but if you put in place these lifestyle measures, it can prevent or slow down the risk of you getting the hypertension. So there are some medicines, if unfortunately you get the hypertension, to help protect your body, help protect the heart, the brain and the kidneys. And a number of times, some of us here may have hypertension. You realize that you're not taking just one tablet. You may be put on 2 or more. And it's because it's needed to help control your blood pressure. A lot of times, it's better to say, remove Obiaba, when you're stroke, now confined to the bed, which means we be some say, now you so big, your better say, now me fire don't but jai because BP a call form. Patch BP and to say malaria dry, your fire HI.